So, we just saw Epic, the field action good movie of the year!
Oh!
Extreme! And how was Epic? How was this feel good movie of the year? It was a big, resounding...
disappointment.
Okay, so let me explain something. Here, you hold this. Now, you've seen me how I am with bad movies in past vlogs. With movies like Wizard of Oz and, well, I should say, like, you know, the Return to Oz or whatever that Oz movie was called. I'm sorry. It's just...
Oz the Great and Powerful?
Yeah, Oz the Great and Powerful. And Iron Man 3. These were things that I'm a fan of. So, of course, when they're not done right, I get fan rage, which you've seen. With films like Great Gatsby, which are things that I hated, but expected to be pleasantly surprised by, and was only to be disappointed. With that, I get angry because I was given both false expectations, and I was bored out of my mind. In the case of Epic, I felt nothing. We saw the movie, and we leave, and, like, there's just silence. There's, like you and I, we barely said anything to each other. It's like, it's one of those movies where, like, it's not bad enough where you can get angry about it, because, you know, it doesn't really hold ties to anything, and it's not so much boring, like, it's pretty to look at, but, like, there's no substance to it, and it's just, like, what do you say about something like that? I mean, I pretty much just felt, ugh. And it's just, like, granted, there are plenty wrong with this, but just, for initial reaction, I just feel just...
nothing.
Ugh. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean... if anybody's seen the trailers and anything, you pretty much know that this is full of, like, Pitbull and Beyonce and whoever the hell else is in pop music, or if you can call it so. So, I mean, I wasn't really expecting much. And I came into this movie just completely curious, because it just seemed so odd. It seemed like, despite the casting choices, I thought, you know what, this movie, despite, like, the casting choices, it has something of an interesting look to it, and who knows, the story and the characters might actually be engaging, despite, you know, the ones that we've seen that really have no interest to hold. And I mean, it had nothing. People were comparing this to Fern Gully. I say it's kind of Fern Gully in reverse, because instead of, you know, making humans look bad and saying that, oh, they're interfering, you know, they're... in this case, it's like, we actually need them to interfere. We actually need their help, whether we want to admit it or not, or whether we even know it. So, I mean, it had clever things in it, and yes, it looked very pretty, but yeah, generally blah. Generally
like,
blah.
the way I compare it is you're a kid at a birthday party. You see this big-ass piñata, this really big, bright, colorful piñata, and, you know, you're intrigued by it. You're wondering, what could this possibly hold? Like, and, you know, the parents are building this up to be this great thing, and then you whack it, and nothing comes out. Like, that's what this movie feels like. Like, a big, pretty thing full of nothing. It's like, we get no characterization on anybody, aside from, like, a few stereotypical quips, and there are cliches out the ass. Like, everything you've seen in, like, fantasy or environmental films, like, you have the the main character not getting along with their parent. You have the parent that's obsessed with some weird other magical thing that everyone thinks they're crazy for. You have the main character being sucked into a magical world where they're made their big heroine or hero, whatever. And you have, like, of course, you have the main lead and someone from that species get together. Like, it's just cliche after cliche. We've seen this before. And the bad guy is, like, I kept comparing him to, like, Captain Planet villains. Like, because it's pretty much just like, oh, we hate the environment. We want everything to rot. And it's like, wow, haven't seen that before. And like, and I even compared it at one point to, like, those bad guys, the bad guys from Rainbow Bright, those gray things that, like, they want everything to be gray just because. It's like, it is just like, there's nothing interesting. I mean, the designs are cool, like how they make all the plants and stuff come to life, and how they kind of make them out to be like their own people. Like the forest, which we already know is full of life, literally has more life on it. That is all like the little things we don't take into account. I mean, I almost like was starting thinking of like Fantasia, where all like the mushrooms and the flowers and stuff come to life and start dancing. But like I said, aside from it being, like, really pretty to look at, some of the designs are cool, and, like, the 3D actually worked pretty decently in terms of, like, you know, the flying, and of, like, you know, making the atmosphere look a little prettier, but other than that, it didn't really do much. Like, it got really boring after a while, and there was even a time where, like, I was, like, squinting, like, I was, like, this, because they were, like, panning over, like, this big area, and it was just blur. Well, that hurt.
Yeah. I had just the opposite, where, you know, I mean, everything was flat about this movie, including the 3D. Like, they really didn't even attempt to have much in the way of depth. Maybe, like, one or two scenes, but even then, it just felt like we're wearing 3D glasses just to watch this in 2D. I honestly, like, yeah, if it wasn't out of focus at times and hurting my eyes, I never would have remembered that I'm supposed to be watching this in 3D. It felt very flat. And the characters felt very flat. Just everything about this movie felt very flat.
I mean, I thought the 3D worked a little bit, like making everything look big and, you know, but that's mostly like when they were like in the human world that everything felt big.
Yeah, I will admit, like in the human, when they're in the house, I actually, you know, the 3D starts to pop out a little more, but yeah, other than that, it did nothing. It did absolutely nothing, and it doesn't even feel like there's 3D.
Like, I'm starting to, like, sense a bit of a theme here, like, for instance, the fact that you had rap music in Great Gatsby, and everyone agreed that was horrible, and then you have rappers in this movie, and it was horrible. Like, I'm starting to think you really should keep rappers out of movies now, unless it's the appropriate movie. Like, I could see it being suitable in the movie that opened this weekend, Fast and Furious 6. But in movies like this, like fantasy or old-timey stuff, like, it doesn't work. And it's bothering me that, like, more and more of them are showing up in stuff like this, and they really have no place there other than to, like, you know, say, hey, kid, look at us. We're those rappers you listen to. We're hip and fresh, and you should come see us.
And what's even weirder, too, is they're not even in a lot of the movie.
No, they're not. No. Like... And really, they have no purpose being there. I mean,
except to be the exposition fairy or the exposition frog or toad, whatever you want to call it.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's like they have like one small thing like attaching them to the main plot. But honestly, I think like it could have gone to any other character, or they could have found a way around it.
And on the subject of the fact that there's if some of them may be called musicians, there is a musical number. And it is so brief and so pointless and just so uncomfortable It's
Big
just like,
lipped alligator moment.
I would say that, except it's actually somewhat relevant to the plot, but it didn't need to be a musical number.
Yeah, that was pointless.
It was so... It's like, why? Why have that?
I know. And the soundtrack in general was unimpressive. I mean, if you're going to make something up to be big and epic, add, like, epic music to it.
Yeah.
Make you feel like, you know, you're flying, or make it feel like you're traveling. It's
everything,
nothing.
you know, everything in terms of the music just feels like a drive-by. It's like, there, bang, gone.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, can't really say much more without spoiling this, but like I said, if you ever seen any environmental film or any kids' fantasy, like, think of all the cliches I mentioned and you've pretty much seen the movie. Like, there's really, like, no surprise here. Like, there's maybe one, but it's, you know, it's not that big a deal. And it's just, like I said, this is a good example of, you know, of like, what not to do in a film. Like, do not give your film a pretentious title like epic. Because first of all, that word has been overused to death, since it describes pretty much anything now. Like, heck, I'm wearing an epic shirt. I'm wearing an epic hoodie. I'm carrying an epic purse. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. So, in this type of movie, like, especially something that has no substance, you cannot use that word to describe it. It's not like the word's ever mentioned at any point during the film. It's pointless.
Yep. If anything, you could call this movie generic. If you're gonna go with such an obscure, not really related to anything going on title.
Pretty much.
That's really all you can do.
So, yeah, don't see this
pass.
movie. It is a definite pass. Like, it was riffable at times, you know, just you know, like, with a few things here and there, but, like, there's really no jokes. It's not funny. Their characters aren't really that likable. They're not endearing in the least. Like, aside from it being, like, a spectacle, like, oh, look at a forest in 3D, that's pretty much it.
There's nothing else that it has to offer.
No, there's nothing. Like, you will leave the theater feeling absolutely nothing. I mean, maybe it'll entertain your kids for about a few minutes, but even then, like I said, the 3D tends to get boring after a while. So, just pass. Forget this movie even exists. Ignore the blatantly wrong title that this was given, because this is false advertising at its best.
One thing I can say, and I was kind of expecting, it was a very low turnout for this movie.
Yeah, this is opening weekend, and we barely had a line.
Yeah. Even though we had to wait online for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah, I mean, honestly, there were maybe about 10 people in the theater max.
Pretty much. Yeah. There was, like, a hell of a lot of people for, like, Fast and Furious 6 and The Hangover 3, but this movie, I think it was just us and people with kids. Yep. That was it. Because that's all this can really appeal to is kids. Right. So, yeah, like, once again, we're doing this just because, you know, Eric's not with us, and we're not sure if he's seeing this or not, so we just wanted to give a brief thoughts, just so in case we do a full thing, which I don't know how much we can really cover, given that there's nothing about this to go into detail about, aside from a few nitpicks. But, yeah, like I said, that's our thoughts for now, so if we do a vlog, look for that. If not, hey, we warned you. Right.